Good afternoon and welcome back. You're watching the Midday Report and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. We begin with Brussels. The EU is working on potentially extending some membership rights to Ukraine. This partial membership would come ahead of a future full accession to the bloc. For more details, let's now go live to our correspondent Alex Cadier in Brussels. Hello, Alex. So based on the information that we have as of now, what does the EU have to offer Ukraine? Do we know more details?
Well, we know that the European Union is considering completely changing the way it brings new members into the EU, Claudia. That would be a huge change in the way the EU does this. Let me give you an example. For now, as we've seen with previous countries, Poland back in 2004, other countries more recently joining the EU, it is a very long, very drawn-out process. You have to tick every single box before you are a member of the European Union. Reforms to your rule of law, reforms to your economy, reforms to your standards. All these things have to be aligned with the EU before you join. Now, this new proposal by the European Commission would suggest that Ukraine gets effectively EU light. It is a member of the European Union with some caveats, with some limits, until it does the work. It is going to be a very, very strong political symbol to say to the Ukrainians they are members of the European Union. They will benefit from so much of the perks that come with being an EU member. Now, exactly what that means, not clear yet. There will be a lot of questions about agriculture. There will be a lot of questions about migration. There will be a lot of questions about defense, about security. What does Ukraine get? What does it not get in these phased approaches? Another interesting detail about this story, it won't just be Ukraine. You'll have Montenegro and Albania looking closely at this and thinking, well, we could also use this system. It is a significant change of pace from the European Union, who has consistently said the Ukraine has to go through all the steps. An important clarification, Claudia, this does not mean that Ukraine gets full membership without doing the work that every other EU member has done. It's just that it progresses into the EU slower rather than all in one go once all the work is done, Claudia.
Thank you for providing us with details, Alex. This was Alex Cadier reporting live from Brussels. And while the EU is making efforts to make the elements of the EU membership part of the future for Ukraine, Moscow's forces have carried out 2 consecutive days of attacks on the Naftogaz Group's oil and gas facilities in the Poltava and Sumy regions, damaging equipment but causing no casualties. Russia continues its attacks on the country's southern and eastern regions. More on this from Dnipro from our correspondent Oskar Hadzi.
Russia continued its attacks against Ukrainian energy infrastructure on Tuesday morning, with the Ukrainian authorities reporting that Russia targeted an energy facility in the southern Ukrainian city of Odessa, leaving at least 3 communities without power on Tuesday morning. No injuries were reported in this attack. However, a fire did break out at the energy facility, according to the local officials. Now, Russia has continued attacks across the country since the end of the weekend. 6 people reported dead and 41 others injured in Russian attacks across the country. Ukrainian intelligence are also warning of further large-scale Russian attacks against Ukrainian energy infrastructure in the coming days, as this week temperatures are expected to remain below zero. President Zelensky has linked these attacks to foreign components being found inside Russian drones and has called on Ukraine's allies to do more to block Russia from being able to access those components Ukraine says Russia needs to target Ukrainian cities and bomb Ukrainian energy infrastructure. I'm Oskar Hadzi reporting from Dnipro for TVP World.
While Ukraine struggles with the humanitarian crisis orchestrated by Russia, the Catholic community in Warsaw has joined the efforts of other Polish dioceses in fundraising to help Ukrainian civilians struggling with lack of heating. Following the examples of fellow church leaders in Krakow and Łódź, Warsaw's Archbishop announced a fundraising drive. More on this from Slava TV's Julia Gunko.
Every Sunday, holy masses are held at St. John the Baptist Basilica in Warsaw's Old Town. After preaching the Word of God and offering spiritual guidance, the presiding priest addresses the congregation. This Sunday, he spoke of the intense bombing that has left many Ukrainians without access to heat and electricity, putting their health and lives at risk. He closed out the address, sharing the words of the Archbishop of Warsaw on fundraising efforts.
The Archbishop sincerely thanks all people of goodwill who are not indifferent to the fate of our Eastern neighbors. My dear friends, I think it is worth joining these efforts and helping people who are truly suffering. Thanks to your donations, we have already managed to send many power generators to Ukraine. I sincerely thank you for this.
To make it easier for parishioners to make donations, the priests have set up a donation box near the church exit. The congregation responded eagerly. Tomasz says that he has many friends in Ukraine, especially in the Kiev region, and that he cannot ignore people's suffering.
A friend of mine performs as a singer and raises money for drones. And I try to support my friends with letters and text messages. We simply have to show solidarity as Christians. After all, innocent people are suffering because of this banditry. Armies should fight against armies. Civilians should be kept out of this, especially in such difficult times, in the freezing winter.
In just a few minutes, dozens pass by the box, and almost everyone drops a donation inside. The Basilica's church leaders say the faithful in their congregation have been helping Ukrainians since the beginning of the war. Initiatives such as this one have drawn many Poles who are ready to contribute to common security and peace.
We regularly hold various types of collection drives, raising both funds and food donations, which are then sent to Ukraine to those who really need it. Since the beginning of the war, we've had this box here. It has a Ukrainian flag on and is labeled Help for Ukraine. We also send leftover candles to the Ukrainian military, so that they can use them in the trenches for warmth and light.
At the end of January, Cardinal Grzegorz Ryś, the Metropolitan Archbishop of Krakow, launched an initiative to raise funds for generators and heating stations for Kiev. Other cities soon followed suit. In 2 weeks, the Catholic community of Krakow donated over €1 million. This money has already been used to purchase over 200 generators, 900 heaters, 200 charging stations, resources for points of invincibility, and food. Some of the aid has already arrived in Kiev.
On Tuesday, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and his Finance and Economy Minister Andrzej Domański unveiled a new initiative called the Council of the Future. According to Domański, the body will soon set up a range of tools and present solutions that will help make Poland's economy grow faster. Our reporter Sonia Gatabiszczan attended the launch and brings us more.
We believe that the future belongs to Poland. These were the opening lines of Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk on Tuesday as he was describing a new initiative called the Council of the Future. The body consists of some of the country's most prominent representatives of sectors like space, data, artificial intelligence, economy, and more. Polish Minister of Finance and Economy Andrzej Domański told TVP World what the Council and its members will seek to achieve.
It's not a coincidence that those people will have kind of right to advise to the government, to the Prime Minister, as the Council consists of the people who already achieved success, for example, in business. We seek some suggestions regarding improving the processes in the public administration.
Poland is already the 20th largest economy in the world. Minister Andrzej Domański said that he hopes that the leaders of successful companies who are now members of the council will help to enhance it even further. From Warsaw, for TVP World, I'm Sonia Gatabiszczan.
The U.S. and Armenia are tightening cooperation following a Trump-brokered peace agreement. While on an official visit to the country, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance visited the Armenian Genocide Memorial in Yerevan, where he participated in a wreath-laying ceremony. Vance is in Armenia for an official 2-day visit intended to further discussions regarding the U.S.'s access to critical minerals. Gabriela Jelonek reports.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to Armenia follows a Trump-brokered peace deal calling for the creation of a major transit corridor on Armenian land, which would connect Azerbaijan to its autonomous Nakhichevan exclave. Implementation of the road could also prove a key transit corridor for the transportation of Central Asia's vast mineral wealth, including uranium, copper, gold, and other rare earth elements, to Western markets. Securing U.S. access to supplies of critical minerals was likely a key focus of Vance's visit.
Armenia continues to retain the rights of passport control on the road. However, it gets to be administered by American companies for a 49-year concession. Now, what's important about this, though, is that it's seen as a stepping stone, A, in terms of reintegrating Armenia and Azerbaijan economically, and B, as part of integrating this region into a larger middle corridor that the United States has been pushing for a while, connecting Central Asia into Europe.
This was followed by the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, and US Vice President Vance signing another deal, which will allow Armenia to purchase VBAT surveillance drones from the US. After that, they signed off on a collection of memorandums regarding economic cooperation with Armenia.
J.D. Vance touted the fact that Armenia just purchased $11 million worth of U.S. surveillance drones, which is the first time that the United States has sold what can be seen as a military capability to a country in this region since independence. And Armenia has also announced that they were choosing the United States as a partner for building their new nuclear power plant. Now, this is also a major development and has been taking shape actually since the Biden administration. And in fact, it was one of the last agreements that the Biden administration signed before the transfer of power in Washington.
According to Elliott, this is a move against Russia, which has been pursuing Armenia to ensure that Rosatom, Russia's state atomic energy producer, would maintain control over the only nuclear power plant in the region. Russia has traditionally viewed the South Caucasus as part of its sphere of influence. Additionally, Vance and Pashinyan discussed the US tech company Firebird's plans to build an AI factory and data center in Armenia. For TVP World, Gabriela Jelonek.
A battle is brewing over Europeans' money, not over the content of their wallets, but over who gets to send the money when someone on the old continent buys anything. With American payment solutions dominating the EU, the focus has shifted over how to change that, and Poland may have a solution.
One click and the money is magically sent to the seller. It's that magic that has become the focus of conversations about Europe not having alternatives to US-based payment solutions.
Deep integration created dependencies that could be abused when not all partners were allies. Interdependence, once seen as a source of mutual restraint, became a source of leverage and control. There is a need for a European payment alternative, one that would contribute to the bloc's security in a world where Europe needs to compete with other superpowers like the US or China.
Cards are an excellent example of that dependency, with American companies MasterCard and Visa accounting for 2/3 of card transactions in the Eurozone in 2022. Big techs are also in for the game, with Apple and Google both offering payment solutions. Experts say creation of a European alternative would require massive investments, but that's not all.
Local banks also profit from issuing American cards. This is one of the reasons why a European alternative for American card payment organizations has never been built.
An alliance of European banks launched a payment service called Vero in 2024. The service reportedly has almost 50 million users in Germany, France and the Benelux countries. The search for European alternatives creates an opening for Central European solutions. Blik, a payment service created by a consortium of Polish banks, just completed a milestone, the first mobile transfer of cash from Spain to Poland. But for Blik to reach pan-European adoption, some conditions must be met.
Today, only Polish banks have stakes in Blik. To reach wider adoption in Western Europe, Western European banks would also need to become Blik's co-owners.
In some sense, this is already happening, as many Polish banks are owned by European entities. But it is the big boys who need to get into the game for Blik to really shine.
And so this would be all for now here at the Midday Report. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you would like to know more of the latest news, please join us during World News at 4 p.m. CET here on TVP World.